So why is Blizzard launching Overwatch 2? Plain and simple, they need the money. What's up y'all, it's John Master Lee. Today we're gonna react to the new Overwatch 2 announcement trailer that just dropped. I think this is a big shocker for a lot of you Overwatch and Blizzard fans. But quite frankly, this is something that I predicted about last year or so. And I'll get into the business implications of what I mean by that and why it was necessary for Blizzard to do a complete refresh of the game in order to have a viable business going forward. I did a lot of number crunching around this and quite frankly, I didn't see a viable path forward for Overwatch given the trajectory it was on. So before we get into all that, let's check out this trailer, which we already know Blizzard makes some of the best cinematics in the gaming industry. Movie quality stuff. And in fact, they probably should be making movies for all their properties. Forget about handing it off to like Hollywood. Like just make it yourself. But I'm really curious about how they set up Overwatch 2 here through this story. All right, let's check it out. And away we go. Oh, what's going on? Why does it come across like everyone is no longer there?
Winston?
What's on your mind, May?
Do we have enough people for this mission?
As long as we stick together, we'll be fine.
Where's everybody? This is...
If you're going to show, now would be a good time.
Attention!
I really love the animation style they went with. It looks different than what they've done before. Very smooth the way they make the skin look. It's awesome.
This is your captain speaking. We are on final approach to Paris.
That's our cue.
You may now power on your electronic devices. Weather is mostly cloudy, with a 100% chance of null sector invasion. Winston, clear as a spot to land. We'll be right behind you.
You better be.
Why is null sector attacking now?
I don't know, May. But the people down there need help. And right now, we are all they've got.
Actually, Winston's skin's a little bit too smooth for a gorilla, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it doesn't work so well for that type of simian character. Ooh, yeah.
Bonjour, officer. We're here to help.
Nice.
C'était un singe?
I mean, they're not familiar with him.
Good work, May.
Thanks! Watch your back!
Get the civilians to the ship.
You got it! What was that?
Ho 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 ho! Woo! That's straight up Pacific Rim going on here. Oh shit! Are you gonna be fighting that in the game? No way! Oh man, that's awesome.
May, stay with me! Winston!
No.
May.
She needs help. We can't stay here.
How in the hell are they gonna be battling that sucker? Your friends? Where are your friends?
Get everyone out of here. I'll hold the line.
But you said to stick together.
Don't worry. I'll be right behind you.
He's lying. You know something good's gonna happen right about now? Oh, yes. Oh! When the hell?
Kendry.
Oh. That's right, Beaches.
Yes! The cavalry's here!
Yo, man, this cavalry needs to be communicating with the team because you don't just show up halfway through a fight without telling your team.
Let's get you back in the fight.
Mercy.
Interlock shields! How are we going to stop this thing?
May, your backpack.
Huh? That could work! Trissa, pause bomb! Here you go!
This is getting hot!
Ready!
Go on!
Right! Got it!
Oh, God. He's so badass at this. It's sick. Oh my God, that was so exciting. I've never been so entertained in 8 minutes of my life.
Victory is ours, my friends!
Hi, Lena. Brigitte? Oh my gosh, you've grown! Oh, everyone, this is May. Hi, everyone.
Nice to meet you.
Reinhardt.
Good to have you on board.
Oh.
Monsieur, does this mean Overwatch is back?
Yes. Yes, we are.
I love the way they did that logo treatment too. Very unique. Rather than show the whole Overwatch logo, they're just using that circular emblem and adding that little notch to it. Very clever design, quite frankly. All right, so lots of thoughts about this. And you know, what I'll do is I'll talk about what was shown here and some of my thoughts about how this franchise needs to move forward for it to be viable for Blizzard. So it's really amazing. And from my understanding, the Overwatch 2 game is going to be a very different focus from the PvP that we have come to love from the original game. This seems to be more of a PvE type of experience, and it's even drawing a lot of hints of like man versus man from Valve, which is another mode that they had in their Team Fortress game. Very similar game to Overwatch, but the business model it was completely different. I think ultimately Blizzard's hand was forced to make a game like this because of the business model. They went in towards what I think pretty much was the tail end of when you can do a retail-based product for a game like this. Charging $60, giving everything up front, and letting people play it as much as they want. For the most part, since then, the whole industry really has shifted towards free-to-play, and that business model has made it very successful for those companies who have gone that route. Fortnite being a great example of this. And because of this, Blizzard's hands were eventually going to be forced because with any retail product, you have diminished returns in terms of like the amount of sales and revenue you're going to be able to generate from year to year. Everyone owns it. There's no reason to go buy another version. And the amount of sort of like additional DLC and additional sort of things that you can buy is pretty minimum. Like Blizzard had done a pretty good job of being true to what they said about giving you everything you can for the game without having to pay for more. Now, what's interesting was that about last year or so, I was working for a startup venture and I was interviewing a bunch of product managers. And if you're not familiar with a product manager, these are the people that typically work in technology companies, software development companies, who are determining what is it that's going to satiate the market and turn them into specs for development, right? So they're the ones trying to figure out what the user wants and building product that makes it work that way. And so when I interview product managers, I usually ask them to do a case study. I actually created a case study around Overwatch. And if you were working on Overwatch, if you were the product lead, right? Let's say you're the CEO of Overwatch, and what you're seeing is that year over year, the amount of revenue you're generating is dramatically diminishing. You have limited opportunities around DLC and doing anything that would suggest like a free-to-play business model with that type of game. So I posed the question of, what do you do here? If you're a product manager, how do you justify moving forward? Do you launch a sequel? Do you completely overhaul the game? And I can tell you, it was probably one of the hardest case studies I ever put together for people. Now, the thing with case studies is that there actually is no right or wrong answer. What people have to do is propose a solution based off of information that they have. That information typically is around like, what is the competitive landscape? What is the problem that needs to be solved for the company? What is the opportunity moving forward? And, what are the resources and costs to be able to pull it off? For a couple of the candidates, we actually did go through the exercise of, well, what if we took Overwatch and try to convert it to a free-to-play? And the end result was that there are so many things that have been designed about the game that is so locked into a type of business model that overhauling it would almost be as much as spending time like working on a new game. It would break a lot of things. It would take a long time to pull off. And probably the most important of all, it would piss off a lot of the gamers, a lot of the fans who bought the game and thought that, that's exactly what the game's all about. You can't upset that because that's your entire customer base that you could lose instantly by doing something like that. So the really only other option is if you want to keep Overwatch going forward, you have to do some sort of sequel. And the problem with sequels is that if you do a sequel of a game and it fundamentally plays the same, and for something like this, just adding on new characters, better graphics, new game engine, new mechanics, it's not going to be enough because the reality is what's going to happen is it's going to stratify your audience. It's going to stratify your customer base. Some of them are going to stick to Overwatch 1 because they like what's there, and then some will move on to Overwatch 2. And I don't remember if you guys remember EverQuest, a really popular role-playing game series. That's what happened when they launched EverQuest 2. It literally stratified the audience because they kept EverQuest 1 around. And that was kind of the death knell of that franchise ever moving forward. So what looks like what Blizzard has done here is really the smartest move that they can make, which is to make a sequel and introduce a whole new mechanic and gameplay that would encourage people to pay a full retail product type of experience for. This PvE type of experience could complement what's there for Overwatch 1. The tricky part here now is that it's still going to stratify your audience. What will happen is that it's not going to stratify them in a way that they're playing the same game fundamentally and half on one and half on the other, because when you're doing upgrades and new additions, what do you add to, right? So by doing something that's a very different type of gameplay experience, I think that is the smartest move they can do. Now, the interesting question is how much are they going to charge for this? Like, if this is another $60, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow. You know, I think people might think of it more of like an expansion pack, maybe like $30, and you know they'll pay for it. We'll see. They haven't announced any of that yet, and honestly, they really haven't actually shown much more beyond this and a couple of blurbs regarding what the gameplay is about. Still light on the details. Based off these case studies I went through before, the only thing that I conclude was that Blizzard's hand at this point was forced. In fact, probably by last year it was forced, and they really had to start development on it, really double down on it, and to start thinking about like what to do next. You know, the market has shown that, you know, if you do something like Fortnite and you offer season updates, people are willing to pay for it, and the revenue difference is exponentially different. It fundamentally is a huge difference in terms of like the kind of money you can make from doing that. So I think at some point Blizzard's got to seriously consider doing something along those lines in order just to stay in the game, quite frankly. And it's not like they're going to lose a lot of their players, because there's a very loyal following to Blizzard and a very loyal following to Overwatch. When Fortnite can generate billions of dollars over the course of its lifetime, it empowers Epic to do some really big moves in the industry that eventually is going to put them on equal footing, if not overtake Blizzard as the company of the future. And that's, I think, what Blizzard is afraid of. That's what Activision most certainly is concerned with here. So, fantastic trailer. I loved it. Oh my goodness. I cannot even express how delighted I am in just watching something like this. It's, they never let me down with their trailers. In fact, maybe I need to go back and watch some of their old trailers and react to them just so I can get a bit of nostalgia going here with Blizzard. Not that I'm saying like they're ever going to disappear or anything like that, but just, you know, nostalgia. If you want to see that, let me know. Leave a comment below, and perhaps I'll use that opportunity to go back and let's talk about, you know, some of these older games that Blizzard has worked on over the years, from World of Warcraft to Diablo, and you know, do an analysis of the game and where it's heading and what's the viability of the franchise going forward. If you'd love to see that, hear from a former game industry executive and share his thoughts about that, you come to the right place. All right, y'all. Peace out.